guys, what's up? My name is Ximena, and today we're going to be talking about the science silencing tracker. So I know I haven't done a video on this in a while, so just in case you don't know, the science silencing tracker is a joint initiative between the Sabin Center for Climate Change Law at Columbia University and the Climate Science Legal Defense Fund. So basically what they do is they track the government's attempts to restrict or prohibit scientific research, education, discussion, or the publication or use of science information. And they've been doing this pretty much since November of 2016. So today we're going to be talking about the most recent updates that happened last month. And let me get my tea because it's hot. There's some shit going on, and I'm going to tell you about it. So let's just get into it. So the first thing that we're going to be talking about is the Children's Health Research Program being canceled by the EPA. So last month, and I think it started last month, maybe it started like in April or something, but we started hearing about a lot of states putting bans or restrictions on abortion and saying that they were pro-life and all of this shit. Well, on May 13th, 2019, Nature reported that the Environmental Protection Agency plans to eliminate funding to the Children's Environmental Health and Disease Prevention Research Program. Let's get into it. What is this research program? What do they do? Who are they? Let's talk about it. So this program is a joint initiative of the EPA and the National Institute of Environmental Health Services, also known as NIEHS. The program supports 13 research centers which explore ways to reduce children's health risk from environmental factors. And the EPA has provided funding for this program since 1998. But recently it announced that it would stop doing so, and it's only going to be funding it until next month, July 2019. So the NIEHS has indicated that it can't afford to replace the EPA's funding, meaning that a lot of these centers are going to close and slow down their operations. So what exactly are they researching? What do they do? What's happening with them? Let's just dive right in. So there's a lot of reasons that children are going to be more vulnerable than adults to the effects of climate change. And one of those reasons, to try to say this as summarized as possible so I don't make this a super long video, basically the amount of contaminants that household chemical products are allowed to hold are based on this standard of a 180-pound male. So let's say that you're allowed to have, and this is just an example, let's say you're allowed to have 2% of a carcinogen in your window cleaner. Completely an example. This is, I don't know specifically if windows cleaners have this, but this is just an example. But let's say you're allowed to have 1% because that percentage is relative to how much is okay based on the 180-pound male body. Well, what if you have window cleaner, you have bleach, you have dish soap, and you have all of these cleaning products that all allow that small percentage that is okay for a 100-pound male, adult male? Well, take into account an 8-pound infant. This framework that they use to figure out if something is toxic is based off something that doesn't even apply to me or a lot of the population that's under 180 pounds and under 6 feet tall. So yeah, that's why this stuff is important, because this type of research is seeing how this stuff affects infants, newborns, babies that are still in the womb. So if pro-lifers give so many shits about abortion and making sure that the child is healthy, why is nobody talking about the fact that they're cutting funding to this research program? So some of the areas of research that this program has been focusing on is questions like obesity and what the role of environmental factors is in the epidemic of obesity among our nation's children, endocrine disrupting chemicals, how are widespread exposures to chemicals that interfere with the body's hormones affecting children, particularly during vulnerable windows of development, which include while they're in the womb. And as soon as they come out, like, they've done tests on umbilical cords to see how much chemicals babies are born with, and oh my god, that's a whole video on its own. And like the statistics and like the data that they have on that is insane. So another area of study that they're working on is epigenetics, and how modifications to DNA resulting from diet, aging, stress, and or environmental exposures affects our children or our grandchildren. And studies like this involve like children being followed from when they're in the womb to development. So the fact that they've been doing this since 1998 means that if they were to have started following somebody who was pregnant at that time, that means that that child would be 21 this year, which means that's a long-running study, and those types of studies are very rare. Just to talk about a couple of the findings of the research that they've done, research by the Columbia Center actually suggests that the widely used pesticide chlorpyrifos harms the development of children's brains, and it's actually used to treat an array of crops. And until 2001, it was legal in the United States for indoor use against insects like cockroaches. So in their study, they actually learned that the high levels of exposure to pesticide actually hindered the development of the brain while children were in the womb. So automatically, if your mom was exposed to chlorpyrifos while you were in the womb, there's a high chance that your IQ can't reach a very high level. Like automatically, before you're even born, this chemical is going to alter your brain structure, and automatically like your IQ is going to be a lot lower. And this affected a lot of families, especially like those of undocumented workers who were working in farms and whose parents was working in the field with these crops. There were actually cases of them being born without like limbs or like with other types of problems, but one of the overall main findings was that their IQ would be drastically lowered. Hawaii actually became the first state to ban chlorpyrifos for any type of agricultural use, and they cited Columbia's research. This type of research also is one of the reasons that we know that asbestos causes cancer, and they've done a lot more, but let's just move on because I could literally talk about just this all day. But the overall message is so they're banning abortions, and they're also cutting funding to children's health research. So how pro-life does that sound? All right, so the next thing that we're going to be talking about is the EPA scientists' advice being disregarded. And so, like, obviously, like, this isn't the first time that this has happened from since the Trump administration came to office. And I don't doubt that, like, it would have been disregarded during previous administrations. But particularly what we're going to be talking about today is the disregarded advice of agency scientists when developing the restrictions on discontinued uses of asbestos significant new use rule. So this rule establishes framework through which EPA may allow new uses of asbestos. Now, even if you don't know what asbestos is, I'm sure the only thing you know is that it causes cancer or that it's bad. Both are true. In a memo, one of the associate chiefs in the EPA's Office of Pollution Prevention and Toxics actually opposed the rule, and this is an exact quote. He said, "Given the significant amount of asbestos sites that EPA has to clean up due to improper disposal or abandonment, opening the door to new uses of asbestos is not an economically wise or health protective idea." So the production of asbestos has been banned since we discovered all of the negative toxic effects. And a lot of other developed countries have also banned the import and use of asbestos. And this includes places like the UK, Japan, South Korea, France, Italy, Spain, Australia, Germany, and the Netherlands, and a lot of others. So the crazy thing is that the US has already banned asbestos. However, they're still importing it. Scientists already know what the risks are involved. And like, I know that the EPA is really ass backwards right now, for many reasons. But even they are saying that this is bad. And it is bad. It's literally all about the profits. Oh my God. So one of these staff members actually wrote, rather than allow for, even with restrictions, any new uses for asbestos, EPA should seek to ban all new uses of asbestos because the extreme harm from this chemical substance outweighs any benefit and because there are adequate alternatives for asbestos. Like, it's literally all about the money. This has like dollar signs written all over it. Literally last month, the agency weakened a proposed standard for cleaning up groundwater pollution caused by toxic chemicals. And now they're talking about allowing more toxic chemicals in the home. Back in March, a proposed ban on the deadly chemical in paint strippers was scaled back. And the administration has rejected a proposed ban on chlorpyrifos, which we just talked about. So, this next story that we're going to be talking about is about the USGS scientists being ordered not to model long-term climate impacts. You guys know I'm about to go off. Before I even go into the specifics of this story, let's talk about the difference between weather and climate, because as simple of a difference as this is, somehow the people in power are unwilling to learn the difference. So, examples of weather. It's hot outside. It's cold outside. It's sunny today. It was raining last week. Examples of climate. May usually carries a lot of showers in Portland. Hurricane season usually occurs in the late summer. Fire season begins during the summer. What is the difference between weather and climate? Weather is the day-to-day phenomena. It's something that we see day to day. We can see a trend, a long-term trend known as climate, which is 30 years. 30 years. A 30-year trend of weather data is climate. A day-to-day phenomena, like what you see on your phone, is the weather for this week. It is not climate. They are not the same. Okay? 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 Does that differentiation make sense? Day-to-day phenomena versus a 30-year average. Okay? I don't know how much more clear I can make that. Day-to-day phenomena. 30-year average. Okay? Now, what does this say? On May 27th, 2019, that was like last week, the New York Times reported that the director of the U.S. Geological Survey, USGS, James Riley, ordered agency scientists not to engage in long-term modeling for climate change impacts. According to the report, while USGS scientists previously modeled climate change impacts through 2100, Director Riley has ordered that they only use computer-generated climate models that project impacts through 2040. Scientists have expressed concern that such a short-term modeling is misleading because the biggest effect of current emissions will be felt after 2040. That's exactly why they chose that number. Think of it as a wave. So, like, let's say a boat makes a wave. No matter what, you know that that wave is going to hit the shore. You can't speed it up, you can't slow it down, you can't stop it. Like, even if you put a barrier there, that just means that that wave is going to hit the barrier. So, a lot of you guys probably don't know how climate models are made, and it's a very complicated, long process that has to do with a lot of climate numbers, data, everything put into a computer model. So the reason that this is important is because they put all of this data in there and then they run it so that it doesn't only predict the future, but they also try to mimic the past with all of their input. So we know that El Nino and La Nina is a phenomena that happens every like 7-ish years, depends on a lot of variables. So when they run these models, they make sure that the model itself creates this phenomena that we know and have recorded to have happened. So if this climate model didn't record that El Nino or La Nina effect, then we know that that model doesn't work and got to go back to the drawing board and recreate it. So they make sure that the model can predict past recordable climate before they input it and try to use it for future climate. All of the stuff that we're doing right now, like let's say that we did put like air pollution restrictions on manufacturing. Let's say that we did care about water quality and started improving that. Let's say that we did start putting initiatives tomorrow. As with the example of the wave that I said earlier, it's going to take until that wave hits the land for us to see where exactly on the scale we are with our increasing climate. So that's really like where we are right now. And for them to say that we can't project past 2040 is literally limiting the scope to make the graph look better. We're going to leave it off here because I feel like a lot of this can go in different videos, and if you guys like to see me rant and get really pissed off about how people are such hypocrites in the world, then feel free to subscribe and comment down below like other things or maybe your thoughts on this stuff. But yeah, that's where I'm going to leave it here today. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Don't forget to hug a tree, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.